See, I've never had any inclination towards socialism, nationalism, any other ism. My only ism is blackism in this perspective, that I want black folk, I see myself as an empowerment pragmatist, saying how do we get from where we need to go as quickly as possible to save ourselves from becoming a permanent underclass in this country by the year 2013.
And one of the ways that you say will not work
is integration. Okay, integration.
Well, black people think that integration is the way to go, and white folk have thought forever. Liberal white folk have thought that integration is the way to go.
Oh, sure. If I was white too, because I really got you boxed in now. See, because that public policy, let me go back to that public policy again. At the turn of the century, that public policy was picked up by our organization, NAACP and Urban League. They saw it and they said, now we're going to come into existence and try to help black folk. What can we do? They were only permitted to help black folk in the context of the public policy. The public policy said black shall be a managed labor force. So the precepts of the Urban League and the NAACP was to help black folks find equal employment opportunity. See what I'm saying? And by the mid-1920s, Garvey and somebody said, hey, hold a second, how about some economics? And they said, no, that's out. And so we could never move blacks into starting their own businesses as a national public policy. So in the mid-1920s,
because again, the law stipulated that blacks cannot have businesses compete with whites,
they couldn't
do anything that would bring profitability to blacks and take it away from whites.
Either through they utilize legal and extra legal means to keep blacks out. In many cases where blacks, you see, nobody in this country was more qualified, for instance, raising tobacco and raising cotton than black folk, okay, and taking care of livestock. In many instances, they would even poison the blacks' livestock. They would burn his cotton, burn his wheat. So blacks could not, and that's why if you look in the back of the book, you see all kind of laws that says blacks should not compete with blacks in compete with whites in a whole number of things. But by the mid-60s, what happened in the middle of the civil rights movement there was that, contrary to what's popularly taught, black folk didn't get free in the mid-60s. What happened at that point in time was that that technology finally caught up with that labor need for blacks. And for the first time, the public policy said, hey, we no longer need blacks to open doors and shine shoes and wash dishes and mop floors. We got technology that can do it. And when that happened, something very profound happened again to the public policy. And what they had to do then was say, the white society said, aha, now we've got to change this public policy. So what they said is that now that we no longer need blacks, what we have to do is go into a new period called benign neglect, okay, or callous indifference, or out of sight, out of mind. So then they said, so Monahan came up with a policy by the late 60s saying, or early 70s saying, it's time for us to move from focusing on black folk to focus on Indians, Hispanics, and women. But they also said what we must do in our new public policy is, first of all, make sure that all of our public policies at every level express no guilt for what has happened to black folk. Point one is pivotally important. Point two is that we show no responsibility or obligation to help blacks in any manner. Okay? Which means affirmative action and anything else. Point three is to make sure nothing is done to transfer that wealth that I told you, that 100% wealth on one side of the sheet over to blacks, that never occurs. And that is what we've been locked into from the mid-60s up to today.
But once again, the civil rights movement focused on integration. The civil rights movement said if we can move into their neighborhoods, if we can go to schools with them, if we can sit at the same lunch counters with them, then we'll make the breakthroughs we need to make to end this codified evil called racism.
Because we had been pursuing, since that original mandate in 1638 excluded us, saying black folks should never enjoy the fruits of white society, that's been locked in our mind to enjoy the fruits of white society. So we want to integrate. But nobody else in this country ever wanted to integrate there. What they want to do is assimilate. They've always had the option to assimilate by the second generation.
The difference being?
The difference being that they can move in and blend in. They can intermarry and blend in, and by the second generation you can't tell who's who. Or they can have the option of setting up a little Haiti, or a little Havana, or a little Cuba, or a little whatever you want, or a little Italy. But black folks want to integrate, and integrate killed us for a number of reasons. I'll try to get these points in very quickly. One, first of all, integration is nothing but a new modified form of segregation. Only thing now, you've broken your people down to a smaller unit, and you defied the first premise of power, which is you no longer have numerical power. Now you're in little small groups all around large urban areas. That's point one that's going to knock our brains out. Point two is that the white society maintains what we call a racial balance, or what we call a tipping point, which says that I will accept black folks primarily at zero, but I would tolerate them anywhere from up to 5 to 8% of any given population. But the minute they cross that 5 to 8% population, it is no longer integration, it's now invasion, and I must take action against it. So I'll either take my kids out of school, put my house up for sale, move my business to the suburbs, or I will resign from the organization, okay? Because I'm not going to let him get that dominance over me. Third thing that immigration is done for you, it destroyed all your major businesses because they used the highway system to drive expressways right down the center of every black community in this country. And where blacks used to have major business opportunities in the country, they were all destroyed. 4, we find that also we got a major capital drain. There's a basic rule in economics which says you must spend your money in your community and make it bounce 8 to 12 times before it leaves. Black money never bounced one time. Black folk have approximately $300 billion passing through our hands annually.
Right.
That money doesn't even bounce in our communities.
Transform weakness into power by gathering others to play with cards that your group deals. Your group. Chapter 7, we're covering practicing group politics. Modern social scientists, philosophers, and politicians define politics in whatever ways suit their purposes or fancies. In espousing their views, they most often define politics as the part of compromise or the art of the possible. However, for our purpose, these definitions are meaningless. They say nothing about the real nature of politics and the rules of the game. In the real world, politics can be best defined as the process that decides who gets what material benefits out of life. Politics is about power. It decides who has food, income, education, shelter, health, heat, and health care. It allows the nation's political elite and overclass to play gatekeeper. They dispense resources on a trickle-down basis. Those who are the closest to them at the top get the lion's share first. Those who are on the bottom get the least and the last. In a competitive society, there's little, if any, incentive to look out for an underdog group. Blacks are the out group, and they can rest assured that the overclass will make all the political decisions in their own best interest rather than in the interest of Black Americans. The rules of the game. Black Americans have always been excluded from playing politics by the official rules of the game. Every time we sought to play by the rules changed or the game extended before we had a chance to play. Therefore, rather than continuing to be like a dog chasing his tail, we need to simply step back and look outside of the box. In the action steps outlined in this chapter, we suggest ways in which we should alter our behavior or change the accepted rules of politics. But in all instances, we must adhere to the fundamental rule of all politics, quid pro quo. It means something for something. Or at the more familiar level, it means you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. Those who invest their time, energy, and resources in support of a political cause, candidate, or political party expect to be compensated in a manner that is equal to their investment. Happy Monday and welcome back to On the Shoulders of Giants. I am Joseph Ward, and we are continuing our reading and reviewing of Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Powernomics, the National Plan to Empower Black America. And in this chapter, we are covering chapter 7, Practicing Group Politics. This chapter is needed. It's needed. In my adult life, being able to observe the political process, but also being able to observe how Black Americans engage in the political process, the more I've learned, the more I've become disheartened. We don't know how to vote. I think one of the problems is how we were conditioned to engage in politics from the beginning. We are conditioned to be engaged in politics throughout school systems. I know I was, through the school system. So I'm giving my experience. If your experience is similar, then we have similar experiences, but I'm giving it my experience. So in elementary school, when it came to electing the student government, the class president, and all of the positions that were picked, it was a popularity contest. Middle school, student government, for all the positions that were picked, a popularity contest. High school, all the positions that are picked, popularity contest. College, follow suit. all the positions that are picked for student government popularity contest. So if this is how I've been conditioned throughout my formal schooling years, if this is how I have been conditioned to engage in politics, why would I change? Why would there be anything different? Why would I engage in politics on a practical level? I was never really taught civics. I was never taught civics at all. I had to learn civics on my own. So we're never really taught civics. And we're conditioned to engage in the political process. The way that we're conditioned to engage in this political process is not feasible as far as for us being able to get our desired outcomes or our intended outcomes for voting for a specific purpose, a person, purpose, or cause. I'm not getting what I need, but I'm going to continue to vote this way because this is how we're supposed to vote. Because there's always a hero and a villain, and we should never vote for the villain. But the problem is we don't know how to tell who the hero is, and we don't know how to tell who the villain is because we're just only going off the popularity contest. Specifically for Black people in America who are voting as adults, we're dumb. The way we vote is dumb. It's Democrat or bust. That's crazy. We know we never get what we want. We never get what we need. But we continue to vote Democrat. They need to be working for our votes. So these are things that we're getting into. The quid pro quo. Something for something. What am I getting for my vote? If I'm not getting anything for my vote, why am I giving you my vote? But we have to learn how to get what we need with our vote because we already vote as a block. 90% or more of Black America votes one way. We have to learn how to use that power. So let's get back into it. Page 187, the first chapter on page 187. The worst part of this picture is that Black America has not demanded a quid pro quo relationship. And explaining how Cuban refugees in Miami were able to economically and politically surpass and subordinate Blacks in Miami within 1 decade. A Cuban told me, we are not like Black people who always march, demonstrate, then beg. We demand what we want. Blacks have petitioned for freedom and equality, but never demanded quid pro quo compensation for their political loyalty, labor, patriotism, or cultural contributions. What are we doing? We're literally just giving away votes. We don't understand politics. We think we do, but we don't. We are engaged in the political process, but we are engaged in the political process from a standpoint of we are the people who help the Democrats. That's it. We're the Democrats' bitches. Black America has become the Democrats' bitches. They are our pimps, and we are their bitches. That's the problem. We have to change the way we see ourselves in the political process, and we have to change the way we engage in the political process. Forget the feelings, put all the feelings to the side, put all the emotions, put all the other crazy stuff to the side. Is what we're doing working? The answer is a resounding no. Why? Because we never get anything for our votes. We never do. But we're going to continue to go down the same path because we literally think that the Democrats are the good guys, the Republicans are the bad guys, so we have to align ourselves, not understanding that neither one of these parties have our best interest. Neither party have Black America's best interest. Black America is only labor to these classes, to both political parties, or even to the white political structure or the white supremacy structure. We are labor to them. We're not real human beings. So page 188. So political accommodation is obsolete. Playing American politics based upon the needs and interests of other groups is playing politics just to play. We are always looking out for other people and never looking out for ourselves. Politics is economic Darwinism. It is rooted in selfish economic aims. Players compete to protect what they have or for further gains. Those who operate from altruistic feelings about helping everyone may play the game, but they will not win. Let me read that again. Those who operate from altruistic feelings about helping everyone may play the game, but they will not win. And we look, no other groups in this country take more L's than black people. Booker T. Washington was a pro-black leader. Washington's greatest weakness was his dream of being the great accommodator between blacks and whites. He destroyed Black America's hopes of being an independent and competitive people by telling whites at the Atlanta Fair in 1896 that blacks were the most patient, faithful, and law-abiding and unresentful people that the world has ever seen. The white society rewarded Washington and Black Americans for their humble, meek, compassionate, and non-competitive attitudes by subjecting them to another 60 years of Jim Crow slavery. Like Dr. John Henry Clark says, yeah, the meek shall inherit the earth, but then the strong will inherit the meek. What world do we think we live in? Wake up, damn it. Wake up and smell the coffee. We need to get our black heads out of our black asses. What world do we think we live in? Forget the ideal world that you think we should live in. What world do we actually live in? How do you make an ideal world real when you're not even serious about the world that you live in? You're not even being realistic about the world that you live in. You cannot get to the ideal if you don't fix the real. It doesn't work like that. Nobody cares what you want just because you're begging for it. How long have black people in this country been begging, marching, demonstrating, protesting, writing speeches, poems, all of that? Nobody give a damn about your poem. Poems have never changed anything for us. Speeches have never changed anything for us. I was watching a video last week, and it was an African nation, and all the things that's going on in West Africa with the ECOWAS and Niger and all those things going on over there. And somebody gave a grand speech. Guess what? Nothing really changed. Nothing real changed. Let's say that. Nothing real changed because of the speech. It was a nice speech. It got people stirred up, but it didn't get people stirred up to take proper action to correct the situation. Stop playing around. Stop playing. We need to stop playing politics and learn how to learn the rules of the game so we can manipulate the game for our own gain. Black elected officials cannot challenge the status quo by creating alliances with competing groups. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of nobody else. Alliances must be based on common objectives and benefits. Black civil rights organizations cannot help Black Americans by subordinating Black interests and historical needs to ethnic and language groups who are higher in order of acceptance. Several Hispanic and Korean immigrants told me that they entered this country above Black people and were advised even before they got here to avoid association with Blacks. Ethnic immigrants know Blacks were slaves, but they do not understand the legacies of slavery that still handicap Black people. What they do understand is that regardless of how they may fare, they may fall, they will never sink as low as Black people. Black Americans' humble, non-competitive attitude toward politics and business reinforce the popular image of Blacks as weak and undemanding and allow others to take advantage of them. As the farmer said when asked how he planned to get the crops to market, it's easy. The willingest jackass will have to pull the heaviest load. The willingest jackass will have to pull the heaviest load. The willingest jackass will have to pull the heaviest load. One more time. The willingest jackass will have to pull the heaviest load. And we are the willingest jackasses. For centuries, Black Americans have been the willingest jackass in America. Now that role must change. We got to stop being jackasses. We have to stop being the group of people who are willing to carry the burdens of all of America on our back while not even being able to reverse our burdens. How dumb is that? How dumb is that? We got to do better. That's insane. Doc, we talked about how insane we are when we read and reviewed the compensatory code. This is reinforcement of it. It's more information to show the insanity that we have. We literally put other people's groups' interest above our own. If I'm another group of people, there's no way I'm aligning myself with Black America. Why would I align myself with Black America? What can you do for me? Nothing. You can't help me. You can't help me do anything. We've come in this country. If I'm not one of these other groups, I'm thinking we've come in this country after you, and we're ahead of you. How can you help us? What are you going to help us do? What? March, demonstrate? We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. We got real political power because, hey, guess what? We operate as a group. Black America. That has to be our mindset. We, whether you keep saying it, whether you like it or not, you're a part of a team that's losing. Whether you want to participate in the game or not, you're a part of a team that's losing. So Dr. Anderson gives us 12 political action steps that we can use and strategies to play the game and create political conditions for economic success, right? So